Indifference, often misunderstood and seen in a negative light, is commonly associated with a lack of empathy or disregard for the well-being of others. However, there is a deeper, more constructive facet of indifference that deserves exploration and understanding. In this video, we will unveil how indifference can transform into a powerful and versatile tool, capable of bringing significant benefits to our personal and professional development. Number 1, freedom and authenticity. Fundamental values such as freedom and authenticity often get lost in the sea of conformity that permeates our society. Many of us, driven by the inherent desire to belong and be accepted, end up following the steps and ideals of the collective, like sheep in a flock, blindly adhering to norms and standards set by others. This conformity, though it may seem like a safe refuge against uncertainty and judgment, often becomes an invisible cage that restricts our freedom of individual expression and suffocates our true self. In a world where criticism and rejection by the masses are frequent and often merciless, those who dare to challenge the status quo and forge their own path face the risk of being marginalized, ridiculed, or even ostracized. The pressure to conform and fit into the mold of normality is intense and can be frightening, leading many to abandon their unique aspirations and identities in favor of the safety of anonymity and acceptance. However, deep thinkers like Arthur Schopenhauer and the Stoic philosophers offer a potent antidote to this fear of not belonging: indifference. They teach us that the opinions and judgments of others, while they may seem overwhelming, do not hold as much power as we imagine. If we truly wish to achieve our most authentic goals and live a life that truly resonates with who we are at our core, we must learn to adopt a stance of selective indifference. This does not mean a lack of empathy or disconnection, but rather a conscious choice not to allow social conventions and the opinions of others to dictate our path and our choices. By embracing this philosophy of indifference, we make room for radical authenticity and a freedom to be that is rare and precious. We free ourselves from the invisible chains of social judgment and find the courage to live according to our own terms, exploring our passions, pursuing our dreams, and expressing our true nature without fear of repercussions. This is the essence of freedom and authenticity, the ability to remain true to oneself in a world that constantly tries to shape us in its image. Number 2, emotional resilience. During a visit to the ancient Greek city of Nicopolis, a notable event occurred in the school of the philosopher Epictetus. A man, anxious about the dangers threatening his life, expressed his fear of being imprisoned or exiled from Rome by the emperor. This situation offers a profound glimpse into Stoic philosophy, as taught by Epictetus, who responded with wisdom that resonates through the ages. Epictetus, with his clear understanding of human nature and the universe, categorically stated that external events such as being imprisoned or exiled are beyond our direct control. He emphasized that the true possession of an individual, the core of their freedom and power, lies in their will and personal attitude towards these circumstances. This Stoic perspective reminds us that the way we emotionally react to life's events is forged not by the events themselves, but by how we interpret them in our minds. If we surrender to fear and terror at the thought of adversities like imprisonment or exile, we find ourselves sinking into a pit of emotional despair. However, if we adopt a view that recognizes these events as mere facets of the vast workings of the universe, events that are not intrinsically good or bad, we achieve unshakable emotional resilience. This is the true essence of Stoic philosophy, the belief that no matter how harsh the difficulties, we always have the choice of how to react to them. Epictetus highlighted the value of disregarding things that are outside our control, focusing instead on those within our reach, our thoughts, desires, and actions. These are the true realms of our personal power. The power of indifference, according to this Stoic view, lies in the ability to discern clearly between what we can and cannot control. By adopting indifference towards what is outside our control, we free ourselves from the fuel that feeds our emotional disturbance. The Stoic art of indifference is not a passivity towards life, but an active approach to seek what is beneficial and avoid what is harmful, always guided by internal wisdom that recognizes the transient nature of external factors. This leads us to a state of mind that is unperturbed by external storms, allowing our minds to remain serene and focused on what truly matters. At its core, Stoic indifference is an invitation to live with authenticity and courage, regardless of the turbulences of the external world. Number 3, authenticity and independence in thought. In a world increasingly shaped by social pressure and the expectation of conformity, the importance of remaining true to ourselves and cultivating independent thought becomes more crucial than ever. Society often pushes us toward a path of uniformity, where the opinions of others tend to shape our worldview and our choices. However, we must resist this pressure and place our trust not in external voices, but in the internal voice of our own authenticity. The true power of indifference lies not in apathy, but in the freedom to create our own space of authenticity and personal truth. Being true to oneself, without relying on the opinions of others, opens a range of possibilities for pursuing our dreams and living an authentic life. This attitude of indifference empowers us to deviate from social norms when necessary, forging our own paths with courage and determination. In a society where conformism and the pursuit of social approval often dictate behaviors and decisions, choosing to be indifferent to the expectations of others is an act of courage and a true declaration of independence. This choice allows us to explore and express our identity without the restrictions imposed by judgment and external expectations. In a society where conformism and the pursuit of social approval often dictate behaviors and decisions, choosing to be indifferent to the expectations of others is an act of courage and a true declaration of independence. This choice allows us to explore and express our identity without the restrictions imposed by judgment and external expectations. Maintaining this selective indifference is not just a way to protect our individuality, it is also a path to fostering a deep sense of inner peace. By freeing ourselves from the shackles of others' judgment, we gain the freedom to live more authentically, aligned with our deepest values and desires. This freedom is an invaluable asset, allowing us to experience life in its fullness, free from the constraints imposed by social conventions. This path of conscious indifference invites us to a journey of self-exploration and authenticity, where each step is an expression of our true essence. By embracing this philosophy, we discover that indifference can be a powerful ally in the pursuit of a full, meaningful, and genuinely ours life. We have reached a crucial point of reflection and personal decision. If you followed thus far, I invite you to make a commitment to yourself. Comment below. I will be different starting today. This, along with today's date. Make this moment a milestone in your journey of personal growth. A phase where you employ indifference not as a sign of coldness or disconnection, but as a tool for living a more balanced, focused, and authentic life. Write down today's date and remember it as the day you chose to adopt a new perspective, one that will allow you to face life's challenges with a new strength and wisdom. This is the day when you decide not only to go through life, but to live it fully, with clarity of purpose and a tranquility that comes from knowing that you are in control of your reactions and emotions. So I encourage you, join this community of people who are choosing a path of growth and self-awareness. Let's continue. Number 4, Improved performance. The story of the young archer in archery competitions brings to light a powerful lesson about human nature and the impact of our expectations and emotions on performance. The young man, though skilled, was entangled in a web of nervousness and worry, a debilitating mix that undermined his confidence and ability. He was so consumed by the need to win, to help his family, that the fear of failure became an overwhelming shadow, clouding his talent and training. Each arrow he shot was not only propelled by the strength of his hands, but also laden with the weight of his expectations and anxieties. What if I fail? What if I lose the prize money? What will happen to my family? These thoughts created unbearable pressure, turning each shot into a battle, not just against his opponents, but against himself. However, the story of this young archer is more than a tale of nervousness and pressure. It is a window into understanding how adopting a stance of indifference can transform our way of facing challenges. When we shift our focus from the outcome to the process, from "I must win" to "I will do my best," a fundamental change occurs in our approach and mental state. By adopting a mindset of indifference towards the final outcome, the archer could focus on the present moment, the technique of each shot, his breathing, body alignment, and the serenity needed to hit the target. This shift in focus is not a sign of giving up or lack of ambition, but a strategy to achieve a state of flow and harmony where performance can reach its peak. This approach of being present and detached from results has profound implications not just in competitions, but in all facets of life. Whether at work, in personal projects, or in relationships, the ability to detach from results and focus on the process brings a sense of freedom and empowerment. It allows us to face each task with a clear mind, reducing anxiety and increasing our efficiency and effectiveness. Furthermore, by freeing ourselves from the obsession with results, we discover the intrinsic pleasure in the act of doing. The process becomes rewarding, and each small success along the way turns into a source of satisfaction. Thus, indifference to results is not an abandonment of our goals, but a healthier and more sustainable way to pursue them, allowing us to enjoy the journey as much as the destination. If you're enjoying this, don't miss out on the opportunity. Purchase the ebook now, Stoicism in the 21st Century, Ancient Strategies for Modern Challenges, and unlock your prosperity, abundance, and improve your relationships with this ebook. Link in the pinned comment. Number 5, accessible satisfaction. The Greek philosopher Epicurus, with his insightful views on human nature and the pursuit of happiness, proposed a radically different approach to life than that valued by consumerist society. In contrast to the incessant pursuit of excessive and fleeting pleasures, Epicurus advocated for the importance of finding joy in the simple, natural, and essential things of life. For him, true happiness was not found in the relentless accumulation of material goods, but in the ability to reduce and control our desires. Epicurus argued that cultivating indifference towards the seductive shine and glamour of the material world offers us a form of satisfaction far deeper and more enduring than the futile attempt to satisfy insatiable desires. This perspective invites us to a path of objective satisfaction, where we find tranquility and contentment not in excess, but in moderation and in the appreciation of what is essential. According to Epicurus, the fewer desires we have, the more easily we will achieve satisfaction. This is a powerful lesson in a world where we are often led to believe that more is always better. However, if we lose ourselves in the incessant pursuit of more possessions, more status, more pleasures, we find ourselves in an endless cycle of dissatisfaction. In this bottomless pit, true satisfaction becomes a perpetually distant and unattainable goal. Epicurus's wisdom teaches us that the better option is to seek accessible and sustainable satisfaction, focusing on what truly enriches our lives. Indifference, in this context, is not apathy, but a conscious choice to be content with less and to find pleasure in the small joys and genuine experiences of life. By adopting an attitude of indifference towards excessive demands for extravagant pleasures and elevated status, we pave the way for a form of satisfaction that is both simpler and deeper, a satisfaction based on authentic values and offering an inner peace that does not depend on material achievements or excessive indulgences. In summary, Epicurus's ideas invite us to rethink our priorities and seek a life path where true wealth lies in simplicity, moderation, and the ability to enjoy the fundamental things of life with a grateful and peaceful heart. Number 6, rational and objective decisions. When we emotionally attach ourselves to a specific outcome, our ability to make objective and rational decisions can be seriously compromised. This emotional attachment can lead us to choices that, while providing momentary emotional satisfaction, may not necessarily be the most prudent for the situation at hand. Furthermore, biases and personal prejudices can distort our perception and prevent us from considering all the options and alternatives available, leading to decisions that can be irrational and harmful in the long term. Approaching situations with a mindset of indifference does not imply disinterest or negligence, but rather the ability to emotionally detach from outcomes and preconceived judgments. This approach allows us to evaluate all available information more objectively, making decisions based on facts and logic, rather than being guided by our emotions and biases. Indifference, in this context, acts as a filter, enabling us to focus on what is essential and preventing common errors in decision-making. A practical example of this approach can be seen in the corporate environment. Imagine a company executive facing the decision of who to promote. If there is a friendly bond with a particular employee, the temptation might be to favor them, even if other candidates are more qualified. This choice, based on emotions and personal relationships, could lead to an irrational decision detrimental to the company. On the other hand, by adopting a stance of indifference towards these personal preferences and focusing solely on the qualifications and merit of each employee, the decision made will be fairer and more beneficial to the organization as a whole. Indifference is, therefore, a paradoxical and powerful concept. At first glance, it may appear as a sign of disinterest or emptiness, but in reality, it is a subtle and powerful force that allows us to discard distractions and focus on what truly matters. It frees us from the chains of our own emotions and biases, opening up space for a clarity of thought and action that is essential for making effective and objective decisions in any sphere of life. Number 7, resilience in times of change. Indifference, often misinterpreted as a lack of interest or concern, reveals itself under closer scrutiny as a powerful strategy for cultivating resilience in an environment characterized by volatility and uncertainty. At the heart of this concept is the idea of selective emotional detachment, a skill that enables us to face the relentless tide of change and challenges with a clear mind and a balanced heart. In this era of rapid transformations, where the new and unexpected become the norm, the ability to maintain emotional balance and mental focus is not just a desirable skill, but an urgent necessity. True indifference in this context is a form of wisdom and self-awareness. It does not imply a total disconnection from the world around us, but rather a deep understanding of our own reactions and emotions in the face of events we cannot control. This refined form of indifference teaches us the art of discerning between what is in our power to change and what must be accepted as part of the dynamics of life. By adopting this stance, we don't waste our energy on futile efforts to control the uncontrollable. Instead, we use it more strategically and intentionally, focusing on actions and thoughts that truly have the potential to positively influence our lives and those around us. By maintaining calm and objectivity, even under pressure or in adverse situations, we equip ourselves with a crucial tool for adaptation and personal growth. Indifference, in this sense, becomes an internal compass that guides us through chaos and disorder, allowing us to face life's storms with a resilient and determined posture. It empowers us to see beyond distractions and momentary turbulences, focusing on what is essential and enduring. Far from being a mere defense mechanism, indifference transforms into a gateway to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. By embracing this perspective, we don't just survive the waves of change, we learn to surf them. We discover new forms of strength and flexibility within ourselves, recognizing that in many cases, true strength lies in the ability to adapt and flow with the currents of life, rather than resisting them. Thus, indifference, far from being an abdication of our responsibility or a sign of weakness, emerges as an expression of emotional intelligence and maturity. It teaches us to live with a fuller and more conscious presence, embracing changes not as enemies, but as companions on the journey to personal growth and fulfillment. Number 8, clarity and focus on personal goals. In a world filled with stimuli and distractions, the ability to cultivate selective indifference becomes an invaluable tool for personal empowerment. This form of indifference, far from being passive disinterest, is an active and strategic choice to turn away from what is superficial and transient to focus on what is essential and enduring. By adopting this stance, we not only filter out the excess noise that permeates our daily lives, but also refine our ability to discern and prioritize what truly contributes to the achievement of our most significant aspirations. Selective indifference allows us to erect barriers against the tide of distractions and interruptions that threaten to divert us from our goals. It teaches us to value depth over superficiality, quality over quantity, leading us to a more intentional and focused life. In this process, we become adept at identifying and pursuing what resonates with our life's purpose, steering clear of the temptation to follow paths that do not align with our core values. Furthermore, the practice of selective indifference empowers us to develop mental resilience against social pressures and external expectations. In an era where we are often judged and evaluated by what we possess or achieve, learning to detach from these external metrics of success is liberating. It allows us to redefine success on our own terms, guided by an internal compass of authenticity and personal fulfillment, rather than being swayed by society-imposed definitions. This path of conscious and selective indifference also strengthens our emotional autonomy. We learn not to be hostages to external approvals, finding satisfaction and contentment in our progress and accomplishments, regardless of external recognition. This leads to a form of contentment that is self-sustained and deeply rewarding, as it is based on achievements that are truly meaningful to us. Finally, selective indifference acts as a catalyst for deeper personal growth and development. It encourages us to engage in regular introspection, constantly re-evaluating our priorities and adjusting our focus according to our evolving goals. This results in a richer and more multifaceted life journey, where each choice is a deliberate expression of our deepest and most authentic aspirations. Number 9, simplification of decision-making. In the current scenario, characterized by an overabundance of information and options, the ability to practice selective indifference becomes an invaluable asset. This form of indifference is not a refusal to engage with the world, but a shrewd strategy to navigate it more effectively. By choosing to be indifferent to what is secondary and irrelevant, we free our minds from the congestion caused by an excess of choices and information, creating a clearer and more peaceful mental space for reflection and decision-making. The practice of indifference allows us to discern more accurately what really matters. It acts as a filter, eliminating distractions and focusing our attention on the options and opportunities that resonate with our fundamental values and long-term aspirations. This is particularly relevant in a world where we are constantly bombarded with new trends, other people's opinions, and an incessant flow of data. By becoming indifferent to these peripheral influences, we empower ourselves to identify what genuinely benefits us. This approach has a profoundly liberating effect. By reducing the noise and confusion that often surround our choices, indifference enables us to adopt a more assertive and decisive stance. This not only simplifies the decision-making process, but also significantly reduces the anxiety and indecision associated with it. Decisions become less about what we should do based on external pressures and more about what we truly want and need to do based on a deep understanding of our own needs and goals. Additionally, by practicing indifference, we develop greater confidence in our decision-making ability. This helps us avoid the vicious cycle of doubt and second-guessing that can paralyze our ability to act. Indifference teaches us that not all options and information available deserve equal consideration, and that often simplicity and clarity are the keys to effective choice. In summary, when understood and applied correctly, indifference transforms into a tool of empowerment. It allows us to navigate the sea of possibilities in modern life with a finely tuned internal compass, guiding us toward more deliberate choices that are aligned with who we really are and what we truly wish to achieve. Number 10, enhancing emotional self-sufficiency. The practice of indifference, often misunderstood, can be a powerful catalyst for developing emotional self-sufficiency. This form of indifference is not about a cold disconnection or apathy, but an internal strengthening that empowers us to face the world with greater confidence and balance. By cultivating indifference, we learn to detach from the constant need for external approval and validation, a liberation that allows us to embrace a life of authenticity and sincerity. This process of emotional strengthening occurs as we begin to recognize and value our own judgment and feelings above others' opinions. This doesn't mean we completely ignore the feedback of others, but we learn to balance that feedback with our own intuition and internal wisdom. The emotional self-sufficiency that comes from indifference provides us with a firmer foundation of self-knowledge and self-esteem, making us less vulnerable to the fluctuations of others' opinions and emotions. Moreover, indifference helps us develop a serenity essential for facing life's challenges and adversities. It teaches us to accept that not all situations require our emotional reaction, and that often a calm and measured stance is key to overcoming obstacles. This approach not only reduces stress and anxiety, but also allows us to make clearer and more effective decisions, free from the emotional turmoil that often accompanies difficult situations. Healthy practice of indifference also fosters a sense of self-confidence and self-appreciation. By learning not to constantly depend on external approval, we start to recognize and value our own achievements and qualities. This leads us to a virtuous cycle of self-empowerment, where each step of emotional independence reinforces our confidence and ability to deal with life's complexities. Therefore, indifference, far from being an emotional barrier, is a bridge to a more authentic and balanced life. It offers us the freedom to live on our own terms, strengthening our inner core and allowing us to face the world with renewed serenity and self-confidence. And as always, if you liked the video, subscribe to the channel And don't forget to activate the bell to receive notifications about new videos. And of course, leave your like and your comment. See you in the next video.